This is Tom Crosby, and this is the Cochise County Board of Supervisors work session Tuesday, August 13th, 2024 at 1 p.m. in the Board of Supervisors hearing room, 1415 Melody Lane Building, G. Bisbee, Arizona, 85603, pursuant to ARS 38431.02H. The public will have physical access to the meeting place 15 minutes prior to the start of each meeting. Any item on this agenda is open for discussion. Roll call. This is Tom Crosby from District 1, District 2.
And English is present online.
Okay, and District 3.
Supervisor Judd is here.
Okay. Members of the public may also attend this meeting via Microsoft Teams computer or mobile app or via phone by calling 602-609-7513 or 888-680-6714, conference ID 693-957-174 pound. If you have trouble accessing this meeting remotely, call 520-432-9200 for direction. Work sessions are a time for county staff to inform and discuss agenda items with the Board of Supervisors, and public comment will not be taken. For introductions, Ms. Judd is with us. Ms. Jackie Watkins is with us. Joe Casey is with us. Chief Deputy Attorney Christine Roberts is with us. Mr. Karwatchka, the county administrator, is with us. And I think I said Ms. English is with us remotely. So for more introductions, we have Mr. Jason Fazio, and I wonder if you would care to introduce your team with us today, Mr. Fazio.
Yeah, my name is Jason Fazio, Public Works Director for Cochise County. With me today, I have Jessica Moore, my Administrative Manager. And I have my three operations superintendents, one from each division, Robert Hill from Solid Waste, Fred Nixon from Highways, and then Joe Hutchison from Fleet.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fazio. Discussion and possible direction is what we have on the agenda today regarding Public Works Department informational update, including the following topics, and I'll let you take it from there, Mr. Fazio.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. This is just to catch you up on a lot of what we did the last quarter of last fiscal year, but I've also dropped in a few things that we're trying to get done on the public works side. So just to update you, we have some staffing updates. We hired a new superintendent for fleet. Like I mentioned, Joe Hutchison over there. He's been with the county about 3.5 years. He's got a really strong light fleet background, a very strong heavy fleet background in management, and he's the newest member of the team. So you'll be seeing him over at the fleet department. I wanted to touch on our safety training program. I know I've mentioned this in the past, but we have implemented it pretty rigorously lately. I briefly mentioned this, but we're working towards 100% safety training with all of our employees with every piece of equipment now. We're not just just going in and do a basic safety training. We're actually doing safety training on each piece. Once we get to 100% safety training, we're going to be working on operations certificates for the operators that have at least 1,000 hours of experience running that machine, and their supervisor is okay with signing them off as being certified. Once they're certified on that piece of equipment, they'll receive a certificate and a sticker that goes on their hard hat showing that they are, so that any supervisor from any road yard will be able to recognize that person is running that piece of equipment. So our training and standards and expectations are something that we're trying to get out there to everybody, making sure that we're above and beyond where we should be. Public Works also developed in-house new internal employee orientation. It's been very beneficial to the department, getting employees off on the right foot and just making sure that they have their PPE, they have the basics as far as their safety trained. We go over our safety incentive program and all of those kinds of things. We talk about days off and how they can use PTO, sick leave, and all of those kinds of things. So it's really getting people off on the right foot. And it's worked really well. I think it's going to help us retain employees because there'll be less confusion as they get their foot in the door and they're learning these things. So we're trying to be a little innovative. I just wanted to throw that out there so you guys know what's going on. Joe, Jackie, and I have been working on a 5-year road work plan. And so Public Works is working with engineering and also with Joe in administration to give the Board of Supervisors kind of an outline of what kind of road work we'll be doing in the future, the kinds of projects there'll be, and just kind of the impact of the budget that might have as we go through these roads and as we get further on into the years and the projects and so forth. We're exploring road management technology and integration. One of the biggest things we did a few years ago is we did a pavement condition index. It hasn't been done in quite a few years, so we were looking at getting that done again so we can see how our roads are faring. Currently looking at a vendor that can measure PCI. We found actually they have an apparatus now that we can attach to our own vehicles so that we can get live data constantly off of these roads instead of hiring a company to come in once a year for $100,000 measuring our roads. We can do this ourselves. And we have supervisors that we could mount these apparatuses to each truck and they could go out and that road would be checked constantly. And we could see how that road deteriorates as we drive them. So it's a pretty neat thing. I'll be bringing that to you guys a little bit more detail and the cost and stuff when we get down the road a little farther. Well, we're just looking at being proactive in our pavement prevention strategy, and so we can optimize the budget and, you know, really help with our long-term goals. This picture here is just the guys doing some hot mix. I thought I'd throw it out there so you could see. They've done a lot of road work out there. I want to talk about their productivity because we want to hit 70 miles of chip seal road a year. We have 700 miles of chip sealed roads, so we really want to do 70 miles a year. So in our heads, after 10 years, we've hit all those roads. We know that may not work mathematically just perfect, but that's kind of our goal, and it kind of sets a standard for us. We also want to make sure that we're fog sealing, and that's basically putting a sunscreen on the road, just giving it a little treatment to make sure we keep the moisture in or out of the chip seal. They did 70.9 miles of chip seal, and we did 85.59 miles of fog this year. So I'm going to dive into our Gantt chart here. You guys have seen this before. You're probably pretty familiar with it. Other than our regular maintenance grading and right-of-way mowing, which we do at all the road yards pretty constantly, our projects consisted of chip seal and prep in Sierra Vista Estates. We did a bunch of pothole repairs out there. We did patching and we pulled shoulders, made sure it looked real nice out there. Chip sealed Mountain Mesa, that's completed. We fog sealed as well. Cascabel Road, we chip sealed, and we did a bunch of hot mix out there where we had to repair potholes. We also pulled the shoulders and cleaned that road up quite a bit before it got chip sealed and fogged this year as well. Airport Road and Dark Sky, we did a chip seal, and we did do a little bit of hot mix out there and some crack fill. The road had some pretty deep cracks in it. This is a road that we inherited from ADOT a few years ago, so we went in and crack filled best we could, and then we chip sealed over top of that, so it should last us quite a bit longer. We did finish chip seal on Cascabel. We got into chip seal on McNeil Town Site, Frontier, and Prince as well. Those are all chip sealed and fogged and sealed up. So those should be good, hopefully, for another 10 years. We did a bunch of storm repair on Central Highway. I know you guys are pretty familiar with Highways has been struggling with a few things this monsoon. We've been getting these flash floods running through, but it caused some severe damage from Highway 80 to milepost 6 on Prince Road there. We had some pretty good damage, and so the road was closed for a few days. Fred and his crew went out there and fixed the road, and a few days later we got another flash flood that washed it out again, so they had to go back out. I think they're 2 or 3 times now to get that patched up. So really thankful to the Highways crew getting out there, and they're working real hard right now because of monsoons. We've had a lot of road closures and so forth. Sandbars coming over the roads and everything, but they're getting them cleaned up and opened up just as quick as they can. after these storms are hit, and they're doing a real good job. But that covers our work plan for the fourth quarter of 2024. We're developing the first quarter for 2025, and I plan on bringing that to you guys this next work session so we can talk through that. That 5-year plan should also be something that we can put together fairly soon so we can give the Board of Supervisors some extended dates and times on when things will be done. All right, to touch on some fleet updates. The light fleet replacement vehicles, you're showing that we're waiting for 3 on this slide. That's actually changed over the last couple of days. We got 2 more vehicles in, so there's actually only 1 that did not come in to date. So we're waiting on 1 vehicle. These are regular replacement vehicles that are coming in, most of them for the Sheriff's Department. The Sheriff's Department is still waiting on 10 grant vehicles. I don't know when those will be in. That's something that the Sheriff's Department got through a grant, so they'll be dealing with the upfits and all that kind of stuff on those. I just wanted to throw that out there so you guys were updated. We also recently had a vehicle auction. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but we had quite a few vehicles go to auction. The auction went very well. It's now ended, and the auction winners are paying finance, and the finance is dealing with the paper portion of that. And then once they have a receipt and a title from finance, they come over to fleet, and we work on helping them get those picked up, the rest of it, jump starting them, helping get them on trailers and that kind of thing. So far, I think we've had probably a half a dozen of them picked up or so. A heavy fleet update. The second boot truck arrived a little later than we thought. It came in mid-July. Not a bad thing. It got here just in time. We had a truck go down, so we were able to put it to work pretty much right away. The second truck I was going to update you on is the paint striper. Luckily, the paint striper, the old one, is still hanging in there. You guys know, the Board of Supervisors knows I came to them to buy a new paint striper. We were hoping it would be here before the new fiscal year, and they ran into some hiccups. The unit is used, but they had refurbished it, and I guess it had a hiccup, so they're working on getting that done so they can deliver it. And the delivery date right now we're being given is August 30th, right there about that time. Solid waste update. I'm sorry, and I don't want to run too fast through this. Do you guys have any questions about anything I've thrown out there yet?
Sure, we catch up with questions. What's boot in a boot truck?
So a boot truck is the truck that puts the oil down for the chip.
Okay.
And or fogs the chip after we're done chipping.
Did you have any questions, Madam Chair?
I did.
Are these vehicles that are auctioned, are they capable of running? All of them are capable of running when they're auctioned?
Some of them are.
Okay.
We really push the mileage out on these vehicles, so almost all of them are up over 200,000.
Mm-hmm.
Because we had an issue with getting vehicles, we really push the vehicles out there now. So the vehicles are really high mileage. Some of them do not run. We did let them know in the auction which ones ran and which ones did not. Some of them have engine noises. Some of them have transmission problems and things like that. Mm-hmm. But they were at the end of their useful life, and it was just going to start nickel and diming the county. So those went to auction.
Okay. You talked about Cascabel Road, and I think there's at least 2 of those. Is this the one in Palominas, or is this one up in the Wilcox area?
It's up in Benson.
Benson, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Are we talking about Mosen Road improvements yet?
Yes, we've been working on Mosen Road. Jackie has some engineering stuff that she'll talk about in the next work session. We've done a lot of work out in Mosen recently with the storms and stuff. There's been some patching. We've worked on some hot mix and things like that out there.
Okay. What about, you have the plan, which we've seen before, and I appreciate that very much. So would you like to talk about the plan versus unplanned but necessary maintenance that's due because of flooding or something like that, and how you address that and how you prioritize?
Sure. So we make a plan at the beginning of the year, basically talking about the roads that we're going to chip seal and the roads that we're going to pothole or fix potholes on and do hot mix on. Potholes will sometimes pop up here and there. So those are kind of a regular thing that we do, almost like road grading and mowing. The hot mix are usually a longer planned out It's roads that are deteriorating. Maybe they have soil that's underneath of that road, or the subgrade is falling apart, and so we'll dig it up. A lot of times Jackie's crew will go in there from engineering and they'll tell us, you know, you need to go down 4 inches and put layers of AB or whatever. And then we'll go in there based on engineering's ideas and make a repair on the road. So we have those kind of lined out in between jobs that we do that are basically set out at the beginning of the year for chip seal. So we'll kind of line those out in between because the weather plays a game with us when we're doing chip seal during chip seal season. So we have to kind of bounce the schedule around a little bit.
You could have the same problem with very cold temperatures.
Right. Yeah, we can't chip seal until the temperature is a certain temperature and rising and so forth. Moisture content plays a factor. Sure.
Okay, getting back to safety training, could you tell us about how safety training or multitasking safety training, I don't know, you probably didn't use those words, but you're talking about a lot of different types of equipment, different personnel, and at the same time, multitasking training and multitasking safety training at the same time. Would you care to address
How we do that?
Yeah, how you want everybody trained on as much stuff as you can.
Right. And so we're trying to make everything more formal than it has been in the past, as well as making sure our guys are getting trained on each piece of equipment. So it used to be just kind of a generic, you know, set the brake, do a walk around, you're checking your tires and your windshield and that kind of thing. But we have so many different types of equipment out there. We've got landfill compactors and we've got trucks and we've got rollers and we've got graders. And so we've kind of really specialized the training in each one of those in safety training. All of my ops superintendents are working on special training for each piece of equipment they have in their work group. Like Joe's working on crane right now. A lot of that stuff wasn't trained in the past. So we're wanting to make sure that our cranes are up to date on their our inspections, and that our guys are trained to know what kind of chains or straps and all that kind of stuff that they can use. So basically we set up a training that specializes in that piece of equipment. They all have to be safety trained. Everyone in the department has to be safety trained on that piece. Then we have new employees coming in. We want them to have at least 1,000 hours on a piece of equipment before we certify them because we don't know what their history is. They've told us and we get a good feel for what their history is. But before a supervisor signs off on them, we really want to make sure we have a good feel for where they're at, being able to run a piece of equipment. We have equipment operators that are experts currently. They have way over 1,000 hours. Typically, an operator will put 1,000 hours on a piece of equipment in 1 year. They have a potential to run 2080 in a year. So if they only ran a piece of equipment for half of the year, they'd be putting 1,000 hours on. So typically a year for 1,000 hours will be roughly where the supervisor would be able to then say, I'll certify you. I'll sign off saying you know what you're doing. We'll have formal documentation, which we have started on several pieces of equipment. I think we have 4 pieces done already. And so we're going to roll that until we get all of our pieces of equipment covered. And so we have all the safety done. And then on top of that, we piggyback this operations certificate showing that they're competent to run that piece of equipment. So it's kind of doubling up on it, and it should give us a really good standing on where our equipment operators are and our mechanics and so forth.
How do you measure the time that somebody has? Do you have Hobbs meters on your equipment? With a Hobbs meter, looks like an odometer.
Right, a hobometer or something. So no, we don't, but we do have hour meters in all of our equipment, and that's tracked through PubWorks. Okay. So most of our stuff will be able to be tracked very easily. Some of the solid waste tractors that are fairly small, that require very little safety training, do not have a hobometer or a way to track that really. Okay. But we figure a year and 1,000 hours kind of go together, so that person would probably have to work a year or thereabout to get that certificate.
Okay, it just occurred to me what a hobometer is.
Hobometer, yeah.
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 Okay. I did aviation training for a while, and my theory was everything except getting from point A to B is safety training. Mm-hmm. And so in your group, maybe be everything except the actual mission is safety training. Right. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
That concludes my questions. If you care to proceed.
Okay, I'll proceed and I'll give you another chance if we have some more questions. The next segment we're going to dive into is the solid waste update. Cell 5, we were anticipating opening that up this week. They did put a little bit of soft material in the bottom to protect our liner. But the one thing that I wanted to mention here is that we save about $42,000 a month by not going into that cell. We anticipated on going into that cell in April. That's 2 years longer than it was supposed to last. The cells have lasted 5 years on average up until cell 4. Cell 4 is an anomaly. We're doing really well managing it. So I wanted to bring that up because they added 2 years, the county saved about $1.1 million on that airspace. And that's from our guys pulling cardboard, pulling steel, and just making sure we're getting the maximum compaction from our machines and stuff and doing our flyovers and just staying really diligent about making sure we're managing that landfill properly. So we should add about, it could be between 5 and 10 years to the life expectancy of that landfill over the next few cells if we continue down this road. So closure study, we're working on a closure study. We're talking with contractors right now. One of the big questions we get when we go to these RRAB meetings is, are tipping fees going up? Most everything since 2017 has gone up. That was our last tipping rate increase, was 2017. We didn't want to see that happen. When Marty left this last year, I wanted to try to make sure that it still didn't happen, and we were able to manage with that still that $64 a ton. But this closure study, when we get the results from that, it could tip the scales to where we have to do something there. I don't know yet. We just need to make sure that we're putting enough money away in that closure study so when that landfill does reach capacity, the county has the money to close that properly through ADEQ. The Douglas Transfer Station rehab is another thing we're looking at doing. I'll probably have to come back to the board and get your guys' blessing on doing, we're going to do sheet metal about 12 feet down. We're going to reskin the bottom of that station. It's been a real eyesore and it's been a concern for Douglas. So that's something that we want to get done because it's, you know, wind can get in there and it can blow the litter out. Vectors can get in, birds, mice, javelina, whatever. So we're going to try to get that closed up a little bit. ADEQ permit update. The one thing I wanted to talk about here, and it kind of ties into the closure study discussion, is ADEQ hit us up about a month ago, maybe a couple months ago, and they say their permit rates are going up. They're not waiting until our fiscal year to raise our permits. In January 1st, we're going to start seeing rates increase. So it's something that we need to keep in mind as those rates increase, and you go back over to this closure study, if we start seeing an extra cost for closure, and we have these additional costs coming from ADEQ to make up their shortfalls, then we're going to have to collect more at the tipping, you know, as a tipping fee. So I just wanted you guys to be aware of that. Something I'm going to bring to the Rate Review Advisory Board meeting as well. We do have kind of, we're running kind of forecast on the ADEQ permit, so we can kind of see about where that lands us because we're doing fairly well still. But we're covering our cost, but we just want to make sure that we forecast that to see what that tipping rate increase could be. Okay, talking about budget, going on to this next slide. This is the solid waste financial update. We can see that we have a tonnage increase there on the top right. That's probably due to our free dump day. I'm going to assume we have about an average of about 80,000 tons that come in a year. Every time we have a year where we have a free dump day go out, we usually see an uptick just a little bit. And so we got 82,281 tons. That's an increase of about 1,400 tons this year. So you will see an increase in revenue. Our increase in revenue is $6,497,000 from the $6,309,000. The one thing that we did see is our payroll went up. Of course, we made some adjustments because of market rates changing, but we had a little bit of a savings in a couple of places. So if you look down at heavy fleet equipment operations and maintenance, last year we spent about 1.4 and this year we spent 1.3. So we're about 170 some thousand to the good that last fiscal year. That was a nice surprise. The rest of these numbers stay the same because as we talk about our heavy fleet equipment replacement and our transfer out to landfill closure fund, which we talked about in here, the capital out to future cell development, and the transfer station improvement, we keep those the same. So we're putting away in the bank those amounts so that we have money to fix a transfer station for future cell development and for landfill closure. The landfill closure, we don't really have an option. That's by statute, we have to put away enough money to make sure that we can manage that. But those are basically accounts that we keep, and we're keeping them the same. We can change probably, and we've discussed this in the rate review advisory board meetings, the transfer out to capital future cell development. We may be able to tweak that down just a little bit depending on where we come out with these others, because we look at what we're putting away and what we saved. I talked about the $1.1 million that we saved. We actually may be able to reduce that just a tiny amount and put a little bit less in there, and we'd still have enough to dig the next cell. So it's kind of another good surprise. We'll see how that plays out. So basically, we have a positive cash flow of $312,000 for last fiscal year. That's not a lot. We're cutting it pretty tight, but it is still to the positive. The last slide is basically just showing you kind of why we're in a positive. These density studies used to come in at about 900 pounds per cubic yard. That's what our cells 1, 2, and 3 are. Currently, our cell 4 is averaging about 11, 12. We have some that are 1,300. We're averaging about 1,207 right now. So our pounds per cubic yard has gone way up. So, pulling that metal and pulling that cardboard and making sure the guys are running those pieces of equipment properly is really paying off. And it's going to pay off in the long run over years. You guys have any questions? That's what I have for you.
I appreciate your comments very much, and especially the cost savings and so on. I don't have any more questions for you.
Okay.
I don't either.
I just wanted to make a comment about the density. I know a few years ago when you started really focusing on that, how there was kind of a real change in the atmosphere, et cetera, realizing that there was more that you could do. At one point in time, we had a real problem. Anytime the fort would change mattresses, we get this big influx of mattresses. And so that's one of those things that you can't pull it out and you can't pack it down. So some things you can control and some things you can't. So it looks to me like you're doing a lot of really positive steps, not only in the highway department, but in the solid waste department. And when people ask us about recycling, I think that we still just need to hold firm on the fact that we'll only recycle something if we can actually sell it. And if that changes, then we'll jump right on it. But we're not going to recycle just so people feel comfortable about that we're recycling. So that were my comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, if there are no further comments, then our next meeting is today at 2 o'clock in the BOS Board of Supervisors hearing room for an Engineering and Natural Resources Department informational update. That is all. Thank you for your attendance today.